Well, this is a question, Matt, that has been coming up a lot lately. I don't know if you've heard this, Matt. The Dodgers are spending a lot of money this offseason, last offseason, every offseason. The Dodgers are spending a lot of money. And you have joked previously in conversations, Matt, that all this conversation, people complaining about deferrals, you wish people would just go back to complaining about how the Dodgers are trying to buy a championship. I have good news for you, Matt. People are starting to complain about the Dodgers trying to buy a championship. And so I dug in a little bit to the numbers in the past. And I wanted to ask this question. Does buying a championship work in Major League Baseball? Does spending the most money, or even being in the top 3, top 5, spending, does it actually correlate to on-field success? Now, the short answer is, of course, spending money makes it far more likely that your team is going to be good. But Major League Baseball, as we've talked about on this show and many other people have said, the postseason is such a random tournament for the most part that the very best team oftentimes is not rewarded with on-field success and championships. So I dug into the last 10 years, Matt, and I looked at luxury tax numbers. So like kind of what's your luxury tax number? Because salary cap can mean a million different things. And the top 3 payroll, I'll just ask you, I'm not putting you on the spot or trying to do a gotcha here. In the last 10 years, how many times do you think a team with a top 3 payroll has actually won the World Series?
I'll say 3, basically 30%.
The answer is just twice.
Okay.
Only 2 times in the past 10 years has a top 3 payroll won the World Series. One of those, you might remember, 2024, the Los Angeles Dodgers won the World Series championship. I'm not sure if you remember that. The Dodgers had the highest payroll, luxury tax purposes. You probably heard that a couple places, and they went and won. It's worth pointing out, by the way, Dodgers, Mets, and Yankees were 1, 2, and 3. All 3 of those teams were in the championship series or the World Series. So there might be some, correlation in 2024. But besides that, to find another team, you'd have to go all the way back to 2018 with the Boston Red Sox. The Boston Red Sox they had the highest payroll in 2018, and they went out and won the World Series, which again is just unbelievable content to tell a Red Sox fan that they had the highest payroll in 2018 and won the World Series. Because golly, that's a team that loves to tell the media how interested they are in guys that they don't end up signing. But so just twice, having a top 3 payroll has gotten 2 World Series in the last 10 years. How many times, Matt, out of the last 10 years, do you think a top 7 payroll has won the World Series? We'll broaden this. So we're not just talking 3 teams. The top 7 payrolls in Major League Baseball gives you a what % chance, do you think, at winning the World Series?
In the last 10 years still?
Last 10 years.
4?
5. So 5.
Okay.
So top 7 payroll gets you a 50% chance. And those years would be 2024, again, which we mentioned. 2020, the 5th best team. The Dodgers had the 5th highest payroll. 2019, 6th highest payroll was the Washington Nationals. And then 2016, the Chicago Cubs had the 4th highest payroll. My point is, like, if you go back in 2023, when the Rangers won it, they had the 8th highest payroll. 2022, the Astros won it, they had the 9th highest payroll. 2021, Braves had the 13th highest payroll. Now, how they got to 13th is a whole nother conversation, not for this day. Again, the Dodgers in 2020 were 5th, Washington 6th in 2019, Boston 1st in 2018. Houston in 2017 had the 19th highest payroll. They were also cheating. 2016, the Cubs were 4th, and 2015, the Royals were 11th. And so my point in all this, Matt, is I understand the argument. I understand, as a guy who lives in the Northwest surrounded by Mariners fans, I understand the frustration and the annoyance with the Dodgers going and spending money. And yet, as a Dodgers fan, there's a part of me that's looking at this and saying, like, guys, this doesn't guarantee us nearly, like, as much crap as the Dodgers get. It's like it's a shoo-in. It's like it's, oh, well, you spend the most money, it's guaranteed. Even the top 7 teams, it's 50% you might fail. 50% chance in the last 10 years that you would fail.
Yeah, I think to me the biggest in the current kind of era, the last 2 CBAs, if you will, of Major League Baseball, like, because when the Yankees, obviously, like, the big story now is there hasn't been a repeat champion since the Yankees won 3 in a row, right?
Yeah.
And when the Yankees were doing it, they were spending big. Like, it was kind of different rules. Like, you sort of, in some sense, it seems like more so back then, like, you could, and I'm not saying the Yankees did this, but like, it did seem like that was how, like, you could buy a World Series championship in that climate system arrangement, whatever you want to call it. I think now it's shifted to, the high spending. I think what it guarantees you is at least a shot in October.
Yeah.
Right. And you said it as when we were coming on, like the joke for years had always been like, oh, look at the Dodgers spending all that money and not winning anything. Like, and now everybody's mad that they're still spending. I don't want to say the same amount of money because it has certainly increased, but and again, I think the problem is, look, and I like the Ohtani's contract, like he's only getting paid $2 million.
Right.
Right.
It's 43
like,
for the purposes of the numbers I'm looking at. Ohtani goes down to 43 million.
Good point. Fine. Then I can't go down that path then. But that is
still,
fun.
I mean, honestly though, 43 compared to 70, it's not 2, but it's not 70 either.
Right. So, you know, I still do think that spending all this money, like what it guarantees more than anything, in my opinion, and even that is guarantee is loosely said, is a seat in October. And if anything, MLB has made that a lot easier for the teams that aren't spending the way the Dodgers do and other big markets do because of the expanded postseason, which, hot take, spoiler alert, was a money grab for the league and the owners to continue lining their pockets. It wasn't in the interest that, like, spare me with we want to give, you know, the Pittsburgh Pirates a true shot in October now. Like,
yeah,
it was to continue, you know, putting money in the owners' pockets. I think honestly, what's going to happen now, and look, like I don't care if people are going to accuse the Dodgers of buying a championship, this and that, because it's almost a perfect storm for the Dodgers, where yes, they are spending a lot of money. They're also spending it wide. Like the Padres have spent a ton of money on like 5 different shortstops that have been moved around. The Mets are spending big.
Yeah, let me talk Mets real quick. Second in 2024, second highest payroll, first in 2023, first in 2022, fifth in 2021. In the last 4 years, they've been in the top 5 every single year. And this year, the year they basically blew it all up and traded away their high cost guys to, like, quote unquote rebuild, was the first year they actually had any meaningful success. So I don't mean to interrupt you, but the point you're making here is the right one.
Yeah. And with the Mets, like, I don't want to call it a fluke, but it sort of wasn't. Like, their season was not expected to go the way that it ended up going. After heading into it, yes, there were high expectations and they were struggling, blew it all up and somehow turned it around, and then, you know, were taken care of in the NLCS. Credit to them for getting there, I guess. But it's not just spending the money, it's spending it wisely. And for the Dodgers, I think it's sort of a perfect storm of, look, like, yeah, so they had the financial backing to sign Shohei Ohtani. So guess what? So did the Angels. And I've told you, like, it's crazy to me that Artie Moreno said, no, we don't want to do that structure. Because like, in case people have missed it, we've referenced it on our shows several times. Ohtani came to the Dodgers and said, this is how I want to structure my contract. Would you do it? He also went to the Blue Jays, to the Giants, to the Angels. And I think
he didn't literally go to the Blue Jays, just to be clear about where we're at on this show. He did not physically go to the Blue Jays.
Thank you. He was not on that plane to Toronto. Thank you for catching me there. And offered them those terms, right? And it was basically yes or no, will you do it? The Angels said no. Had the Angels said yes, I believe that Ohtani probably would have stayed there.
Yeah.
And so, like,
Ipe might not be in prison right now. Who knows?
True. Yeah. Who knows? I think my bigger point is what's going to end up happening is the Dodgers just have so much talent right now, and Ohtani in his own, like, that it's not going to be that they quote unquote bought a World Series, because look, he could have chosen to sign with the Blue Jays, could have chosen to sign with the Angels, with the Giants. Like, it's going to be the talent that ultimately gets them there. It's not going to be because they put together a team of all-star. Look, we were just talking about Joe Kelly possibly being in the bullpen, right? Like, I mean, they don't have all-stars everywhere. And we, you know, people are upset that Max Muncy is their third baseman and things like that. And Gavin Lux is at second base and stuff. Like, I think, you know, it's like I said, it's kind of a perfect storm for the Dodgers of, yes, they have spent money, they have spent it wisely, and they have this tremendous collection of talent of, like, peaks that have lined up very well with Mookie, with Freddie, with Shohei, and stuff like that.
Totally. I think the last point you made is another great one, because yes, it's the money they spent on Ohtani and Freeman and Betts, etc., but it's also developing the talent to be able to trade for Mookie Betts. It's identifying Evan Phillips. It's trading for Michael Kopech. It's identifying, you know, Max Muncy, who's now on like a $12 million a year deal. Like Gavin Lux was drafted and developed. Will Smith drafted and developed. The starting pitching, right? Like Walker Buehler, who just finally left, drafted and developed. Clayton Kershaw, drafted and developed. Dustin May, Tony Gonsolin, like a lot of these guys, they've been able to plug the gaps around the high-priced guys. And look, we're Dodgers fans. There's been a lot of failure for the Dodgers too. Like as much money as the Dodgers have spent, they lost in 17 and 19, and they didn't make it in 21, 22, 23, right? So to the people that say you're buying the championship, like we as Dodgers fans know better than anybody else that you can't buy a championship. You can have the greatest team ever. The team they had a couple years ago that basically broke every record. It was one of the 3 or 4 best teams in the last, like in the whole history of baseball from a win percentage perspective. And yet they didn't win anything. And so on one hand, screw the haters. Say whatever you want. We're the champs. We won the World Series. We have Shohei Ohtani. That's all that matters. And on the other hand, it also just isn't true because having a top 3 payroll, again, has only resulted in a World Series twice in the last 10 years. And only one of those 2 was the Dodgers, by the way. The other one was not. It was the Cubs or the Red Sox, excuse me. And secondly, you've got to do way more than that. You've got to get some luck mixed in as well. And so it's an interesting conversation. Again, the Dodgers will be far and away the highest payroll this year. And if they end up winning, I won't care one bit if people talk crap to me. And if they end up losing, I'm going to be just as mad as everybody else anyways. And so that's how I land it here. Again, the Dodgers will have the highest payroll. Whether or not it matters remains to be seen.
Yeah, and the other part too is they're paying a luxury tax for this, and
dollar for dollar.
That money is getting distributed to the smaller market teams. So if you want your owner to receive more money and then use, like your owner's getting the money, the owner of the team you're rooting for has the money.
Yeah.
If you want him to spend it, let them know. Dodgers can't not do things because such and such owner. I don't want to name anybody because then if we get clipped, and
we
stuff
always
like
pick on the Pirates.
That is true. Yeah, Daniel started that. But I saw some of the tweets Daniel was getting, so I don't know if I want to go down that road. But if, a small market owner is not spending the way you think he is, like, that's not the Dodgers' problem. And I do also recognize that not every team can spend the way the Dodgers do, but I don't think the disparity needs to be as large as it is. And I don't think that it's the Dodgers' fault that these other teams are not doing it. And Jeff Passan, I think, was it after the Teoscar Hernandez signing?
Right,
he put out stuff about that too. And so it looked like the money is there and it's not the Dodgers' fault.
Yeah, look, you could look at a Blake Snell contract and say not every team in the league, in theory, can afford to just fork over a bunch of $200 million contracts like the ones the Dodgers have sent. And I would say clearly there is an advantage that the Dodgers have because of their market, because of their TV deal, etc. The Ohtani factor and how much he's getting paid adds to it. But like a Teoscar Hernandez contract, every team in the league could have given him a contract that the AAV is going to work out to like $20 million a year. There's no team in the league that couldn't have afforded that, right? And I would say the Tommy Edman trade, anybody could have traded for him and given him the extension that the Dodgers gave him. Anybody could have had Max Muncy for free. Like, these are the things that the Dodgers are doing, and the Dodgers should not be punished for doing the thing that everybody else should be doing. Whether they decide to or not is up to them.
2024年、ロサンゼルス・ドジャースが再び歴史を塗り替えました。このシーズンは、ファンにとっても選手にとっても忘れられないものとなり、勝利への道筋がいかに険しいものであったかを全員が体感しました。それでもなお、チームが一丸となり、栄光をつかみ取った瞬間は、まさに野球の真髄そのものです。ドジャースはお金を使って優勝を買うと批判されることもありますが、この成功は単なる資金力以上のものです。シーズンを通じて、ドジャースは卓越した戦略と選手たちの努力、そしてファンの熱い応援によってその地位を築きました。確かに、翔平・大谷、ムーキー・ベッツ、フレディ・フリーマンといったスター選手は目を引きますが、それだけではありません。この勝利の裏には、ドラフトや育成で育て上げた選手たちの活躍も大きく貢献しています。例えば、ギャビン・ラックス、ウィル・スミス、ダスティン・メイといった選手たちは、このチームが育成型強豪チームとしての地位を確立している証です。そして、トニー・ゴンソリンやマックス・マンシーのように、一見目立たない選手たちが要所で輝き、チームの勝利に大きく貢献しました。このような選手たちが駆動する姿は、ファンにとっても大きな喜びと誇りをもたらします。この成功の道のりは、決して平坦なものではありませんでした。ドジャースは2020年 以降も何度か大きな挫折を経験しました。プレーオフでの悔しい敗北、批判の嵐、それでもなお立ち上がり続けたチームの姿勢は多くのファンに勇気を与えました。特に2024年のこのシーズンは過去の教訓を生かし、選手全員が次こそはと決意を新たにそよい抜いた結果です。そしてこの勝利の感動を象徴するのが試合後の選手たちの姿でした。翔平・大谷が笑顔で仲間と抱き合い、ムーキー・ベッツがスタジアム中のファンに感謝を伝えた瞬間はまさにドラマのようでした。フレディ・フリーマンがこの勝利は私たち全員の力だと語ったとき、会場全体が歓喜に包まれました。これこそ野球の魔法が作り出す感動です。そしてこの感動を共有できたのは私たちファン一人一人が応援し続けたからこそです。さらにこのシーズンはただの成功だけではなく、チームとしての団結力、そして未来への希望も感じさせるものでした。ドジャースは若い選手たちが次々と成長し、次世代のスターが誕生していることを証明しました。これから数年間、ドジャースがさらなる成功を収めるための土台が築かれたと言えるでしょう。そしてその中心には翔平・大谷という類稀な才能が輝いています。ここで重要なのは、ドジャースが単にお金で選手を集めているのではなく、選手一人一人の個性と才能を最大限に生かしている点です。他のチームが批判する一方で、ドジャースは長期的な視点で選手を育成し、適切なタイミングで補強を行うことで、成功への道筋を描いています。このアプローチこそが他のチームとの差を生み出しているのです。さて、ここで皆さんにお願いがあります。この素晴らしいシーズンの感動を共有し、これからのドジャースの未来を一緒に応援しませんか？まだチャンネル登録をしていない方は、ぜひ今すぐ登録ボタンを押してください。このチャンネルでは、ドジャースの最新ニュース、選手たちのインタビュー、試合の見どころをお届けします。また、皆さんからのコメントやリクエストも大歓迎です。次回の動画で取り上げてほしい話題があれば、ぜひコメント欄で教えてくださいね。野球は単なるスポーツではなく、人生そのものです。チームの努力、挑戦、そしてファンと選手が一体となる瞬間こそが野球の真髄です。このシーズンを通じて得た感動を胸に、これからもドジャースを応援し続けましょう。そして、私たち全員で次のシーズンも一緒に楽しみましょう。最後にもう一度、LA、LA と声を合わせて、ドジャースへの熱いエールを送りましょう。この旅路を共に歩むファンとして、私たちの情熱を共有し、未来の成功を築き上げていきましょう。